Welcome to today's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just need to let everybody know the stream is currently on the air. Okay, I've let everybody on social media know that the stream is on the air. And before I get into today's topic, I wanted to give everybody an update on my health. Now, again, 2 months ago, I had a heart attack, and I'm still in the middle of recovery. And as I've been in recovery, doctors have told me I can go start exercising, and that's what I have been doing for the last 2 weeks, just trying to get my body back into shape. And I finally was able to get enough strength to be able to walk to the barbershop in my neighborhood, and I was finally able to get a haircut and get myself looking presentable. And I had planned on doing this before I had gotten sick, so I'm making some progress as related to things, and I'm trying to get everything back on track as related to my life. So, and part of trying to get things back on track as related to my life is trying to go out here and trying to get everything back together. So eventually I'm hoping to be able to get my room back together after they wanted to do some repairs on it. And I hope to get my milk crates and my other things that were on the wall that needed to be fixed back in the place they were supposed to be. So that's what I'm hoping to do in a few weeks. And as I've been doing that, I wanted to get, as part of about getting back on track, is there was a story I wanted to talk about in a live stream that I wanted to go in depth on, and this was the story of Afeni Muhammad. Now, back on July 10th, Afeni Muhammad wound up allegedly murdering her manager at a McDonald's after she got upset about being constantly sent home for things that she considered to be offenses. And that whole situation was one that I said was a situation of a woman in crisis. And I made a whole video talking about it, but I wanted to go more in depth on the subject, and I wanted to go more in depth in a live stream because as someone who worked in job readiness, I could see the warning signs with this woman's behavior that showed me that this woman was not job ready. Now, in the year 2000, I worked for the Strive Job Readiness Workshop as part of AmeriCorps Vista. And as I worked for Strive as part of AmeriCorps Vista, I learned a lot about job readiness, and I learned about the people who have the hardest time in being placed in employment. And as I was working there, I learned about people and the issues that they had when they had to deal with their own personal issues from being considered unemployable, such as being homeless, such as being an ex-offender, such as being a person who might have some mental health issues, or somebody who just has weak social skills and interpersonal skills. I learned a lot about why these were barriers to employment and kept these people from being able to not only get a job in some cases, but also to be able to keep a job. And when I looked at Afeni Muhammad's story, I saw a mix of issues that's related to things that made her not only a woman in crisis, but also led to her having issues that led to her escalating to the point where she wound up taking the life of her manager. Now, I know a lot of people possibly have not seen this story just yet. For a while they haven't seen her story. So I'm gonna try to again put her story up in a minute, and just gotta find a way to do this because StreamYard has. Okay. StreamYard's formatting is. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay. I think this is the story. Yeah, this is it.
Now, she's accused of plotting the murder of her manager at a McDonald's in East Point, and now she's being held on a bond set at $25 million. The
26-year-old East Point woman faced a judge today as the family of the victim, Jennifer Harris, comes to grips with the tragic end to her life. Harris was stabbed to death Thursday morning at the McDonald's at 9 Mile and Schroeder in East Point.
7 News Detroit reporter Ruta Olsonida was inside the courtroom today when the suspect was formally charged with first-degree premeditated murder, and we learned of her violent past.
New details coming out in court on Friday about the gruesome and what prosecutors say was a calculated way to take the life of a mother of 6 and hardworking employee here at McDonald's. The suspect pleading not guilty to a multitude of charges, including first-degree murder.
She stabbed the victim multiple times, up to possibly as many as 15 times, eventually causing her death.
Prosecution laying out the gruesome details of how 39-year-old Jennifer "Jamma" Harris lost her life at her place of work at the East Point McDonald's near 9 Mile and Schroeder Thursday morning. The suspect accused of her murder, 26-year-old East Point resident Afeni Muhammad, appearing in court virtually pleading not guilty. Her attorney arguing that Muhammad has had a difficult past.
She was in an extremely abusive relationship that was not only mental but physical.
Detectives say Thursday morning Muhammad was sent home from work early. Before leaving, she told her manager and the victim that she'll be back.
When Muhammad returned to stab Harris, she entered the back entrance with a hooded mask over her face in an attempt to conceal her identity and attempted to flee the scene after the stabbing, but was stopped by an armed customer.
East Point police tell me in their investigation, they also considered the suspect's social media posts where she is seen waving around a knife in one Instagram video and discussing being sent home early by Jennifer Harris in previous incidents.
But to get sent home 2 days in a row, man, and I came in on my off day to make up my time, and she still sends me home early, it's not funny. Somebody will have to do something about that.
Due to the suspect having a record in Virginia for a similar crime involving another knife, the judge set her bond at $25 million cash or surety.
Due to the severity of the charges and the habitual offender status, it makes the defendant a high risk for flight.
If convicted, Muhammad could be spending the rest of her life behind bars. She's due back in court July 23rd for a probable cause conference. Meanwhile, I reached out to McDonald's representatives who tell me that this location where the crime occurred will reopen to the public on Saturday. In East Point, I'm Ruta Olsonida, 7 News Detroit.
All right.
Now, when I looked at this story in the news reports, as somebody who worked in job readiness, I could tell you that this woman definitely was not job ready. I mean, when they presented the story regarding this woman's behavior, it really showed me that there were some serious issues. And when I was in the Strive program, we usually would tape an individual to find out what issues they had. We would sit there and again assess their behaviors as they were talking to us about their past and their background. Now, we would have figured out, okay, this person says that they were arrested as related to things. And if this person is arrested, and again, in this case, again, is participating in this kind of violence, we wouldn't have put that person into a job because that person, again, they still have stuff that they need to work out. And this woman definitely needed to work out some issues because she came from an abusive environment, as they allege. And as she came from that environment, what happened here is that the legal system in the state that she was in before, Virginia, basically covered up all of her issues by giving her time served. And giving her time served really did not help this woman. I mean, they basically went out here, and again, this is where gynocentrism came in. You gave this woman a pass for being in a domestic violence situation, not understanding that this woman basically had not dealt with her issues as related to that trauma. And that's what made this woman into a ticking time bomb. Because the people in Virginia didn't make an effort to go out here and deal with this woman's issues as related to the trauma that she had experienced in the past. What happened was this woman's mental health issues continued to escalate. And as they continued to escalate, it really showed that this woman really, she should have been put into some sort of facility to deal with those mental health issues before she could be placed into employment. Unfortunately, what happened was this woman fell through the cracks, and as she fell through the cracks, she then moved from Virginia to Michigan. And as she moved from Virginia to Michigan, what happened with Afeni Muhammad was this ticking time bomb came to Detroit. And as she came to Detroit, she was still following a pattern of dysfunction, that was presented in a TikTok video that was really quite disturbing to me, where she was talking about issues as related to a roommate that she was living with. And in that video, it was just quite disturbing and showed how erratic her behavior really was. Now, here's the alleged behavior presented to you.
Look, he always like look at me a certain way or something, and I told him that like I don't want to have sex. I told him that. So it's like, you know, sometimes he would give me something to eat or something if I didn't make anyone on Instacart. I get that, but I told him like I don't want him thinking that that I owe him that just because he do that for me. Sometimes I want him to think that I owe him sex. So now, like, after I told him that, it's like he's been crying and crying and telling me he think I use him. Dismissing everything that I do for him and did for him. Dismissing the fact that he had this condition that he's been going through for a long time and nobody can help him. But me, I helped him get through it. And I cook, and, you know, I don't have a lot of money, but I still make money at work, but you know, I don't have a car right now. I'm still working to get in a car. And he feels like I owe him sex. And now he's mad and crying and trying to make me feel guilty. I need to just calm down. I'm gonna be okay. But I should have known.
Now, it's clear to me from this clip that she was definitely one of these women who, again, as she was dealing with these issues, what happened was she got involved with one of these nice guys, and this nice guy was basically having her in his house, letting her stay with him. And as he was letting her stay with him, what happened with this nice guy was he was hoping to create a covert contract where he hoped to possibly say, oh, I'll help you out, but I'm hoping to be able to have sex with you. Again, this woman already came out of an abusive relationship, and she walked into another one with someone who was even more abusive, because when it comes to the nice guy is even more abusive than regular guys. And as Afeni Muhammad, again, was in Detroit, she was dealing with more trauma that was exacerbated from the previous trauma that she dealt with. And this whole situation basically is the situation that led to the escalation of things. And that poor manager, Mrs. Harris, she didn't understand what she was dealing with this woman. No, she didn't understand what she was dealing with when she was dealing with Afeni Muhammad. This woman, again, had serious issues, but this manager, again, just could not read someone. And sadly, this mother of six, yeah, she was used to, again, teenagers or other people working places, but she didn't understand, you're dealing with someone who is, again, dealing with a bunch of serious issues, and a bunch of serious issues that are far beyond your ability to look at. Again, a person who's like me, who was in job readiness and saw this type of illness, we could read this person and say, hey, this person, this person isn't somebody you want on your job. They're just not ready to go to work right now. Because when I was in the Strive job readiness program, we used to, again, when we saw somebody like this, we would hold them for a while until we could find out, ways to help that person. We wouldn't put that person into placement, because if you put somebody like this on a job, you're going to wind up with this person having issues. And eventually what's going to happen is that this person is going to wind up malfunctioning and falling apart. And sadly, that's what happened here with this woman, Afeni Muhammad. And what really made it even worse is, again, what happened here was exacerbated not only by this woman's issues, but also, as I said before in my video before, exacerbated by female nature. Because what I believe happened in this situation is that as Jennifer Harris was working with Afeni Muhammad, not only was there these issues as related to this woman's possible mental health, but there were also issues as related to female nature, especially female jealousy. And I believe that the jealousy was a major part of what led to this whole situation escalating, because when she saw Jennifer Harris, again, this mother of six who was a foundational Black American, that's where Afeni Muhammad's jealousy, again, started to trigger. And as it started to trigger, this is where both women basically got into it with each other. And as they got into it with each other, they started beefing with each other. And again, beefing with each other because you have this female jealousy going on. And again, when you have female jealousy going on, you have women getting into a rivalry as related to trying to top the other woman. And the thing that basically made Afeni Muhammad, again, further a ticking time bomb, was that she saw this Black woman who was a foundational Black American doing better than her. And as she saw her doing better than her, this is where she basically started to, again, become more jealous of this foundational Black American woman. And as she became jealous of this foundational Black American woman for having the success of having children, of having a job as her boss, this foreign-born Black woman basically started to get further triggered, and further, this made the situation even worse, because what happened here was, as she was on the job, she was looking to go out here and try to think that she was working, but she wasn't really working out, because in other videos that I've seen, she was sitting there and going on making videos on TikTok during her time as she was working at the McDonald's. And as she was making videos at TikTok videos at the McDonald's, this was not the behavior you want to participate in when you're on a job. No, you don't want to participate in that behavior, especially when you've got a record, especially when you have, again, you've already been arrested. You want to try to, again, put up a good face and build your reputation. But Afeni Muhammad's head wasn't in that place because, again, of the issues she had in the past and the jealousy that she had. And both of those situations led to her becoming further detached from reality and further caught up in her delusions. And as she further got caught up in her delusions as related to things, because she has these delusions about, fame and stardom and things like that. And that was really shown as related to her, deteriorating behavior that was basically shown in depth on her Instagram. I mean, if you look at this woman's Instagram, it really shows you a person who was not someone I would consider for a job. No, if you looked at this woman's Instagram, and a lot of what she was presenting on Instagram as related to things, I mean, if you looked at this woman's Instagram and saw, the pictures this woman presented on social media, it really showed a person who was not really all there. Some people would say mentally. I mean, here's an example of her making one of these TikTok videos, again, on Instagram or TikTok and Instagram videos. Again, you're at work and you're doing this at the job. And this is not the behavior you do on the job. No, this is not behavior you participate in when you're at work. No, when you're at work, you're supposed to be out here, handling the business that the bosses want you to do. But this chick, again, wasn't looking to do that. And basically, when you listen to this woman as related to her, you look at some of the stuff that she's putting on here. I mean, some of this stuff is quite scary.
Onyx told him Nick the balls had him just appalled. Did so many things.
Can't put that. But if you look at this chick, I mean, there's something, really wrong with this when you look at her. And again, looking at this woman's background, I mean, just looking at, her behaviors on Instagram. I mean, this is not someone who was ready for work. This was not somebody ready for a job. No, this was somebody who definitely needed to be placed in counseling and needed to be placed in counseling in order to get the help that they needed in dealing with that past trauma before she could be given more present work. I mean, this is the problem that I saw, again, as somebody who worked in job readiness. As somebody who worked in job readiness, I mean, I looked at this behavior and I looked at it and I said, if we were in the STRIVE program back in 2000, this is somebody we would have held instead of letting them come out of the program, because this person would not be somebody we would graduate in as related to things, because they would basically, again, have an episode. And that's what happened here as related to this whole situation at that McDonald's in Detroit in July, is that this woman wound up having a mental health episode. And that mental health episode, as I would say it, was basically led to this woman looking to murder another woman, all over being sent home. But the reason why she was being sent home was because her behavior was not the behavior of someone who would be looking to work for a job and looking to get themselves over. Because when it comes to people who go to work at places like McDonald's, as I learned when I was working at Strive, it's a stepping stone job. It's a job that most times they would place you in because they want to see you get some experience, get 6 months to a year of experience under your belt. And after you got 6 months to a year of experience under your belt, what would happen is we wind up possibly trying to place that person in a better job, and place them in a better job because what would happen is this person is now shown that they can come to work every day. They can come to work on time. They can come to work and get stuff done. So now we know that this person can be trusted to handle their business. So we would look to place that person in another job. But the whole thing is, this woman, basically, she wasn't ready for the job that she had, and didn't even understand how to work at a job. This goes back to a video I did a while back where I talked about, being able to know how to work at a job. And part of being able to work at a job is to understand if an environment is getting too hot. This is where you got to go out here and start making plans to just, again, find yourself another job. But this woman didn't know how to do that. And that's what was shown to me as related to her erratic behavior that was, shown to me as related to another video that was presented online as related to her behavior. And that behavior, again, let's see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. This is
Yesterday, I got sent home early today by the same person. I'm telling you, she's a bully. This isn't funny. She needs to understand that just because she's a mother and got children doesn't mean that she can come in the store, disrespecting people, talking to them like everybody's beneath her. She has no respect. And it isn't funny at all. Like, seriously, man, I got to take care of.
Now, in this part of the video, she says that she was sent home because this woman is a bully and has no respect for her. And when it comes to the job out here, yeah, that's going to happen in some of these jobs. But your response is not to get in your emotions. But sadly, that's what happens here, because this woman really didn't have good control over her emotions due to the mental trauma that she had. And as she was sitting here, basically what she was doing when she making these videos was basically creating evidence against herself. And again, evidence against herself as related to her behavior. And again, her solution was staring her right in front of her. But because this woman basically didn't understand how life worked, she didn't understand that, okay, things are not working out with this boss. So what I got to do is, in my spare time, I got to go out here and start putting in applications, because the McDonald's job is not something that you go out here and, get too upset about. I mean, McDonald's job is, yeah, it's a little bit of money, but it's not something you get upset about. I mean, it's one of those jobs that comes and goes. But this woman, again, because she didn't really have much, she thought, oh, I'm upset about losing this job, because losing this one job means that I can't be able to do things. But people who are smart, they'd be like, okay, I'm having beef with this boss. I'm having issues with this boss. This is the person who's a boss. It's their thing. And what I'm going to do is charge this to the game and find myself another position. But this woman didn't know how to do that at all. And again, when you're not job ready, you don't know how to, again, put periods at the end of things and let things move on and be able to build your career and go on with your career.
I take care of. And she keeps sending me home early. It's not funny. She's playing games. And then all day, throughout the day, she keeps sending her little racial shit. And then throughout the day,
Now, that's where we see the female jealousy coming in. See, this is where you have two females who are jealous of each other, because, again, you have this black woman, you have this foreign-born black woman, and they're basically jealous of each other. And this is what I was talking about, how when they get jealous of each other, they start getting into it with each other. And that's what we see right here with this woman. She's and this is what's, again, further escalated this situation as related to her behavior, making it more dangerous, making it more erratic, making it more out of control. And that's the scary part about this situation, that, again, this woman wasn't looking at. But again, as somebody who is in job readiness, I could look at that situation and see how serious the situation was. And I could see how serious it was because, again, when you have a woman, again, acting like this, and you're not looking at their social media and saying, okay, this person is not acting right, I need to be dealing with this. But again, a lot of women, they try to tolerate things because they're so caught up in their feelings. Because a lot of times women get caught up in their feelings, especially when they're beefing with somebody. They get caught up in the attention that they're receiving. They get so caught up in the attention that they're receiving that they basically get caught up to the point where they're thinking, oh, I want to get over on this one woman. That's what was happening here. This woman was like, both of these women wanted to get over on each other. And that's what further escalated the situation to the violence that came up.
She keeps on like putting negative energy in the air, talking about people, gossiping about people. It's not funny, man. Don't have to stop. She's a bully. I'm telling you, she's a bully. She brings a lot of negative energy in there. She always panic when there's a lot going on.
Well, that's typical of women. And the thing is that the things she's talking about are typical of female behavior. And again, this is fuel to a fire when it comes down to a situation between two women. And again, this is why you need men in places, because men will shut stuff like this down, especially if they are in a management position. They will shut stuff like this down by dealing with both of these women. But sadly, in this case, you had two women who were getting into beef with each other. And basically, again, female nature took over in this place. Female nature took over in this place. This woman started to say, oh, this woman's a bully. This woman's got a bad attitude and is always starting stuff. And again, that's typical when you get to women who are jealous of each other. And what happened here is that she's again going further berserk as related to the situation, because she doesn't know how to navigate through her feelings, doesn't know how to cope with stuff. Again, not job ready, because in a job, you have to be able to navigate through your feelings. You have to be able to cope with stuff. You have to be able to say, okay, yeah, this manager is this certain way. Because I remember working in Food Emporium, we had a manager, his name was Chuck. He was kind of a jerk and things, but we learned to work around that person. And we just basically dealt with him and just moved on, because the thing that was important to us was getting our money and taking care of our business. I mean, it was a nice store. It was a nice store. I really enjoyed working there. But the whole thing is, yeah, you're going to deal with people like this all the time. But when you're not job ready, you don't know how to deal with different people. You don't know how to deal with their issues. And it really can mess you up as related to being on the job. I mean, it can mess you up really bad. And again, this woman got messed up really bad as related to the job. And this is what led to her getting so hot and heated.
I understand she tried to manipulate that and make it seem like we ain't doing something right, but we are working really hard and doing great. It's just the fact that. And
further, what I want to go to another point is that she sat there and said, oh, this woman gets overwhelmed. But that's women on the job. I've worked with female managers, and in the last minute, a lot of them, they start to get overwhelmed because they're not, women are not logical organizers. They don't know how to manage time very well. They're not very good at communicating. I mean, these are things that I have seen with female managers all throughout my career. A lot of times when you're dealing with female managers, again, they're very last minute. They're not really, a guy will know, okay, 3 o'clock, people coming in. I need to have more people on the registers. I need to have more people behind the scenes. I need to get everything together around 2:30 or so. I need to get everything ready for the crush. But females, when they're on the job, they will wait till 3 o'clock and then just let the place get chaotic. And that's typical of females in management. I've worked with many females in management, but I've also worked with men. Again, the smart men, not the beta males, the men who are on point, they will be like, look, 2:30, I got to get people on the registers. I got to make sure people are on shift, because this is the dinner rush. This is the start for the crush of kids coming back from school. I got to be ready for that. And that's what a guy on point would be all about. I mean, guys who are on point, their stuff is together. But this female, again, couldn't understand what was going on because of everything going on with her. And she didn't understand that, again, her only solution for the situation was, again, I got my 6 months experience. I got a year's experience. Let me head over to Target. Let me head over to Walmart. Let me head over, to one of these other retail spots, and let me go out here and try to find another place to go make my money.
The fact that she panicked, and I caught her a few times making a mistake, and she tried to hurry up and play it off. Nobody's perfect. It's God, it happens. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, somebody might get confused. So it gets busy, yeah. But she needs to stop playing like she don't be making mistakes. I be catching her.
And what you're hearing here right now is a point that I made in a video yesterday. I talked about staying in your own lane, and I also talked about how some males get jealous. Well, here's a female who is just expressing everything I talked about in that video. Here's a female expressing everything I talked about when you are not in your own lane and you're getting in somebody else's lane. And that's what basically further exacerbated this beef between these two women. Again, this woman was getting in this other woman's lane because she was jealous of this woman. She was jealous of the success this woman had. She was jealous of this woman having power over her, because as a foreign-born Black woman, she thought, oh, this woman is beneath her, and how dare she be in a position of power over her. I mean, this woman, had serious issues as related to jealousy that further made this situation worse. And that's what's being presented here.
I be catching her. So her all that
because she thinks she can do the job better than her. She thinks that she's actually better than her. That's what we're seeing right here as related to this woman's jealousy. And it's seeping through, and a lot of people are not picking up on it, but I could pick up on it. And that's where I was looking at this woman and saying, you know, in addition to the issues with domestic violence, the issues as related to trauma, this woman, again, had deep jealousy of this other Black woman for having success and being in a place that she wanted to be, because she wanted to be in that place, but she was just not able to be there. And it just made her, you know, deeply troubled.
All that animosity and that she keep putting in the air and stuff, they're trying to tell me I'm always snapping on people. No, that's false. No, I don't snap on people. I don't go in there doing that. I tell her, no, I make peace. That's what I'm doing. I've been creating peace. So all that negative energy that she's bringing in there, trying to manipulate it, no, that's going to stop.
Now, this is where we see the projection of her issues onto the manager. This is where we see her projecting all of her issues onto this manager. And that's what I'm seeing right here as related to her behavior. She's projecting all of the issues she has with herself onto this woman. And as she projects her issues onto this woman, what's happening here is that she's becoming frustrated. And as she becomes frustrated, she wants to solve this problem as related to dealing with this woman that she's jealous of, dealing with this woman who has more success than her. And she wants to deal with this. And again, this is where we see her behavior going into looking to be possibly criminal. And again, this is looking more like from things as related to this confession. It looks like a confession being made as related to things. I mean, this is what the courts are looking at, because when she says, oh, I have to do something again, and this is where we start looking at it as, oh, there's malice of forethought as related to her plans for a murder. This is what is happening here as related to this situation. It's looking like a malice of forethought situation. And that's what I'm seeing right here with Afeni Muhammad, again, because she basically, again, was not job ready. She gets on the job. She wants to solve herself solving a problem. And again, the way you solve a problem when your mind is right and your head is on point, you say, okay, I'm not getting along with this manager. I'm having issues as related to this job. So what I'm going to do is, again, start putting in my applications at Target, Walmart, Rent-A-Center, wherever there are jobs, and find me another job and go someplace else. I might even get more money if I go someplace else, because I can take that experience and, again, parlay it into something else. Because when it comes to employers, again, they can only say that you work there. They can't say things about you personally, because that, again, turns into slander and turns into malice. So they can't go out here and say stuff. So, but this woman didn't understand that, because she was caught up in her feelings, caught up in her jealousy, and caught up in her anger towards, again, this boss telling her that she was snapping at customers. Now, if this is the case, and again, I have worked in different jobs, usually a manager isn't going to leave, a smart manager isn't going to leave a person like this at the front to alienate customers. No, they're not going to leave this person at the front to alienate customers and get the customers upset and wind up losing business. No, they're going to terminate this person. But again, when you have two women caught up in jealousy, they're looking to, again, get over on each other. That's what I'm going to say, repeat again. So I want you to understand, when females, when they start beefing with each other, it's a nasty situation, and it's a nasty situation that gets progressive.
All that negative she's saying about, you know, her personal life, all of that. No, she's bringing all of that in there, and then playing games, saying she want to take her belt off and beat somebody. Y'all act like my kids in here. No, we ain't your kids. Respect us. Stop talking to us like that.
Well, I hated to break it to this young lady, but when it comes down to women on the job act a certain way because of their female nature. And a lot of females, again, they like to nest. And again, for them, the job is like their home, because women were designed for working in the home. But because of feminism, when it comes down to women, they want to be on the job. But the job is not your house. And again, a lot of women, they don't know how to deal with those boundaries. They don't really know how, to be professional and respect their workers. This is something I've run into, with some women. And again, when you're in a job, this is what happens with women. Again, they start to get and it gets worse when they start to get jealous. They start, saying things, because women are emotional. And they'll say stuff without thinking about it. Whereas a guy, he understands, there has to be, if he's not a beta male, he'll understand, I gotta be professional about how I handle things. I gotta be professional about how I treat my workers. I gotta, be able to talk to them. But when you're dealing with a female, again, she's again got a nature of nesting. She wants to make it like her house, and this is what Afeni Muhammad didn't understand about working with women. And because both of these women were caught up in their jealousy of each other, that's what made this into a powder keg of a situation.
That is crazy. I'm telling you. But to get sent home 2 days in a row, man, and I came in on my off day to make up my time, and she still sends me home early, it's not funny. Somebody will have to do something about that. It's not funny. It's not fair. It isn't funny at all. So, she could keep being a bully if she wants to, but that is going to catch up to her. Because it ain't funny at all. It ain't. Damn.
Now, that statement right there was scary because, again, when I worked in job readiness, we had a situation like that. And again, it's scary because when you look at that situation, this woman basically was letting you know, again, she's a ticking time bomb. She's got malice of forethought. She's making plans to do harm to someone. And again, you would think, okay, let me check out this woman's social media. I mean, you're sending this woman home. You're having issues with her. Again, this is a powder keg of a situation. But this woman, again, was basically, again, so caught up in her feelings, she couldn't see the atomic bomb that I could basically see, right in front of me. I could see this atomic bomb getting ready to go off between these two women, just from what I'm seeing in this one video. And that's what happened in that situation at the McDonald's. Basically, she sent this woman home. And one of the scariest things that she said after being sent home, before she murdered her manager, was, "I'll be back." Now, I remember working at the Strive Job Readiness Workshop. We had a participant go out here. He got upset because he was in the program and people were trying to talk to him. And he decided he was going to walk out and say he'd be back. And when we heard that that dude was going to say he was going to be back, we understood, okay, this situation has escalated. This is a situation that is dangerous. This person is not coming back here to be friendly with you or do things. This person is coming back to do some harm. And we put the whole office on lockdown. And as we put the office on lockdown and this guy came back, basically people in the social services department, we locked that guy down and again, made sure that this guy basically was contained. And any smart manager, if you hear, okay, I sent an employee home, they're telling me they're going to be back. No, I'm calling 911 and letting you know this person is a danger to everyone. And I'm going to shut down the store. I'm going to shut down the store because this person who I sent home basically is making a terroristic threat to do harm to people. And the only way you deal with that is with law enforcement shutting things down and containing the individual. Unfortunately, what happened here was this woman basically got caught up in her feelings. Miss Harris got so caught up in her feelings. And as she got caught up in her feelings about this woman, again, she wasn't seeing the clear and present danger she was in dealing with this woman. And that basically led to the situation where this woman wound up getting stabbed 15 times because she didn't understand that when you hear somebody say they'll be back, understand when somebody says they'll be back, this is where you shut everything down and make sure that you preserve the safety of everyone in that facility. I mean, that's what I learned when I was working at Strive in the year 2000. Again, we dealt with people like this, and we understood that if somebody is like this and making this type of threat, again, this is not a person who is job ready. This is not somebody you want on your job. You don't want somebody at your job, especially in a front-facing position, who is snapping, as is alleged, at customers, somebody who is having a hard time working with your coworkers because they are dealing with issues. I mean, this manager really was not thinking critically or being able to read someone. That's what was scary about this situation, because I don't also see this woman as being, having issues for not being job ready, but I see this manager as not really understanding her job and not taking her job very seriously as related to dealing with this type of threat. Because as a guy who, again, has work job readiness, this is something you got to look at, again, critically and analytically when you're hiring workers. You really got to think about who you're hiring, and you got to think about who you're hiring, because, again, hiring the wrong person can be a difference between life and death.
Then one day she coming in there and talking about some yeah, I broke my door in half and I had to pull my gun out on my kids since this and that. Well, telling us that like the you telling us you pulled a gun out on your kids for? You sound like a psychopath. That's what I wanted to tell her.
That's kind of ironic, but the whole thing is that if you see someone who is this toxic as your manager, again, but women do this, they talk about personal stuff. And again, when you hear a female talking about personal stuff like this, what you do is you got to tune it out, because the whole thing is you're here to get your money. I mean, I dealt with situations like this, not only when I was working at Strive, but also dealt with it at City College, where these women were talking about their pregnancies and talking about the pain they were in and all the stuff that was going on. And I just paid it no attention, because I understood I needed to get my paper. I needed to get paid. And, this woman didn't understand how to do that, because she was, again, caught up in this issues with this woman that she had in her head. Because another thing with women is when they get on the job and, again, start getting jealous of each other, they start creating images and stuff in their head, because women are going to talk about stuff like this. But the whole thing is, as a man or anybody on a job, you got to tune it out. You got to pay it no attention. But this woman was paying it attention. Yeah, she's saying she brought a gun in a job. She put a gun into her kids. Again, that's for Child Protective Services to deal with. Your job is to get your bread. Your job is to make sure you work through these hours, get your bread, get paid, and be able to take care of your business. But this woman, again, was so caught up in this woman's business that it basically consumed her. And as it consumed her, she wasn't able to focus on what she wanted to focus on.
She was talking about some, she blacked out. I'm like, yeah, you must have had blacked out if you pulled the gun out on your kids. Like, I'm like, what the you telling me this for? Like she thinks she's like trying to make it seem like that she big dog or something. Give a about you telling me about you pulling the gun out on a kid. I don't like that doesn't scare me. You know what I mean? That doesn't scare me. If she thought she was trying to intimidate me, that didn't intimidate me at all. I don't give a about her telling me about what the she did. Maybe that's why they always.
Now, that's another sign of the fuel to the fire, because, again, when you have women beefing with each other, they will go out here and, again, tell stories like this to each other. Basically, again, it's a power struggle between these two women. And, again, when you see females like this, again, you got to get out the way. You got to get out the way when you see females like this. When you see a female, again, start trying to do this again, this is about trying to assert dominance. And in this case, again, when I'm looking at this behavior, both of these women trying to assert dominance with each other, because when they're caught up in their jealousy, again, there's issues with each other. And again, it's a scary situation to be in, a very, very, very scary situation to be in. And again, you have to understand, again, when you have somebody like this on the job, this is not somebody who's ready for work. And again, anybody who understands and can read people would look at this woman and say, yeah, this chick not somebody I want on my job, because this is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Especially, again, if you're in front of customers, this person is a liability. She could basically put me in a lawsuit if something happens. And this was what happened here, sadly, as related to this tragic situation with this woman. Again, tragic as related to things. When you look at this story, again,
they always
tragic all around.
To defend themselves. They probably felt like their life was threatened. The out of here with that.
And now this was, again, reported on a local news channel and reported on the news, showing us the whole background of Afeni Muhammad. Again, a woman who definitely was a ticking time bomb who basically was her whole situation of coming out of domestic violence, again, was messed up, again, by the courts. The courts and the legal system, basically, they gave this woman a suspended sentence, time served, not understanding that this was a time bomb that you basically allowed to travel to another state. And as she traveled to another state because of our gynocentric system and domestic violence laws basically giving her a pass, this woman then moved to another state. And as she moved to another state, this is where her female nature kicked in. And as her female nature of jealousy and these issues, they again created this whole atomic bomb situation, an atomic bomb situation where sadly this manager and mother of 6 wound up losing her life because she couldn't read the situation. She couldn't read the situation as related to things, but any guy who understands or person who understands, job readiness and understands how to read job readiness, they would understand, okay, I'm looking at this person, I'm looking at their behavior, I'm looking at their body language, I'm looking at them, and this person really needs some help. Again, needs some help to be taken to some counseling. And people were not really paying attention who needed to pay attention. And that's the scary part. People weren't really looking at this chick. I mean, I'm looking at this chick from again, 25 years ago, I got the training to be able to read situations like this. And I could tell you that this person definitely was not job ready. I could tell you from my experience, again, working in job readiness, this person was not job ready based on what I have seen as related to her Instagram. And again, I mean, the behaviors here, I mean, this is a person who is not, I mean, looking at these pictures, this is not someone who is just, into horror or gothic stuff. This is a person who looks like they have serious issues as related to their health and their mental health. I mean, if you looked at this woman's Instagram, you could see, a series of issues. And if you look at this woman's behavior all around, it just shows you, that this woman just wasn't right. And just shows you that there's, again, issues as related to her. I mean, everybody was looking at this chick as related to, videos she posted online, like this one.
Yeah, work. I was literally physically tapped on a lot of times. My name kept getting called. I was doing a great job. I kept getting sabotaged, tempted, so my button can get pressed and I can go out of character. So although I went out of character, all I could say was stop talking to me. That's all I could say. Stop talking to me. And to walk into my space, still bothering me, and I said, get away from me. Please get out of my space if you don't mind. I can't talk right now, and you still continue to touch me. That made me very unhappy. It was ridiculous. Because I know that I'm a great person, and I know I won't be tolerating that. So since they decided to bully me, let the universe show them what's next. Because it wasn't right. It was ridiculous. And there will be hell to pay for that.
Now, if you look at her face, it clearly shows me that there is some serious issues with her. I mean, yeah, there's filters on there, but the whole position of her eyes, the body language, it's telling me something is not really right with this woman. And again, this was a woman who was a woman in crisis, like I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis. And again, not job ready in any way, shape, or form. She was in desperate need of an intervention like we used to do at the Strive Job Readiness Workshop. We used to do, interventions on people who were dealing with issues like this. And those interventions basically allowed them to get the counseling that they need, whether it be counseling as related to dealing with domestic violence, dealing with mental health issues. And this woman really needed that type of intervention. And what's really sad is she didn't get that. Because she didn't get that intervention due to the courts giving her a pass, this is what happened to lead to the death of a mother of 6 children. I mean, it's a great tragedy as related to things. But when I look at Afeni Muhammad, it takes me back to the time, again, when I was working in job readiness, when we worked with participants like this. And sadly, there was nobody in a Strive program to help this young lady There weren't trainers like we had, like Frank Horton and many others, who would basically be able to pick up on this person's behavior, pick up on this person's issues. People who were ex-offenders, people who were coming out of the foster care system, people who were dealing with mental health, people with mental health issues, people who were, dealing with these situations. So this is what was scary about this whole situation, is that, people were not really paying attention to what was going on. A lot of people didn't even understand what was going on, but I knew what was going on. And if I wanted to do a whole show on this woman just so that people could know what was going on with her, about 2 months ago before I got a heart attack, I mean, that was a show I was planning on doing, because I want people to understand, how dangerous, the situation can be when you're dealing with someone like this, because we had to deal with people like this on a daily basis at Strive. I mean, we had people coming in. Sometimes you get a guy who comes in, all he needs is a job. We just place him and it's okay. But then there are people who have severe issues. And the only way we can get to know those severe issues is if we go out here and interview them, and we watch their behavior, and we watch how they act and behave. And this is something that we had to do, again, to the situation as related to someone like this. And that's what we had to do when we were in job readiness, because people like this, again, they're a danger to themselves, they're a danger to others, and in some cases they can basically, again, turn a job into a horror type situation. And the only way to stop that is to be able to know what signs to look for and to know what to read. I mean, this is something that you have to really think about as related to a situation. Again, when this is where my job readiness training comes in, because I was volunteering there, and I learned a lot about people in that time there. I learned a lot about studying people's behavior, and this is where it was scary as related to this. I mean, this woman, there was something, again, you could just pick it up. I mean, just pick it up and read it. But this woman, the manager, she was, again, I'll repeat it again, caught up in her feelings to the point where she couldn't read the situation. I mean, if there was a true to the game man, he would have been able to read it and say, look, I can't have this person working for me. I can't have this person in front of customers, because there's a chance this person may wind up hurting somebody. I mean, I'm looking at her, and I wouldn't have hired her because, yeah, she's not all there as related to her behavior. I mean, that's not somebody I'm putting on my line, especially in a hectic, stressful place like the restaurant business, in the front of house or the back of house. I'm not going to put somebody like that on my line, because they're going to, again, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But I look at the situation, and I wanted everybody to know what was going on from the perspective of someone who worked in job readiness, so that you could understand, how dangerous a person can be at the job if you don't really know what to look for. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get ready to wrap up today's stream. I really want to thank everybody for coming out to today's stream. And if you want to learn how to help someone in your life who is like Afeni Muhammad, you can pick up one of my books like Stop Simping in the Workplace or The Woman Crisis, and basically I learn how to identify behaviors of women like this so that they can wind up getting the help that they need. Or you can go out here and be able to understand how to work on the job so that you don't wind up getting caught up in a dangerous situation like this. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to today's stream. Not tonight's stream, but today's stream. And I hope you'll be there for the next stream that I go out here and put together.